Welcome everyone. Step out of the light and sit with me for a moment. This is some story or just legend, just word on a screen. But the one I am about to tell you, it's different. This story was shared with me a man named Mark Thompson from Asheville, North Carolina. When Mark reached out to me, he was not looking for fame. He was looking for a way to get this memory out of his before they drove him mad. What happened to him and his friend in those mountains 3 years ago was so terrifying that honestly I had to turn all the light on in my room just to finish reading his email. This is not movie script. This is real life encounter from a place that should not exist. So check the locks on your doors, turn off your lights and listen closely, because the time this story ends you may realize that you are not as alone as you think. Let's get into it. The road to now here. My English is weak. I'm sorry if I say something wrong. Understand? People always talk about the great outdoors like it has highly beautiful thing. And sure, during the day, with the sun hitting the peaks of the Blue Ridge Mountain, it's look like postcard. But what they don't tell you is that when the sun drops, those mountains change. They don't belong to us anymore. They belong to whatever has been hiding in those shadows for hundreds of years. My name is Mark. This happened about 3 years ago. During the fall break of my junior years in college, me and my three close friends, Sarah, Jason, and Leo, decided to do a classic road trip. We wanted to see the autumnal leaves, do some hiking, and just get away from the stress of exam. We are young. We felt invincible, and we had this old beat-up SUV that we called the tank. We thought we could go anywhere. The day started out fine. We spent the afternoon hiking near a place called Back Mountain. By the time we got back to the car, it was later than we planned. We should have stayed in a motel nearby, but we were cheap college students. So we decided to drive through the night to reach our next trail by morning. Around 11 p.m., we took a shortcut. At last, that is what the paper Mac said. Our GPS had died miles ago. No signal, just a spinning circle on the screen. The road was narrow, barely wide enough for 2 cars, and the forest on either side was so thick you could not see 5 feet past the trees. The fog started rolling in, thick and white, like a shadow belong floated over the world. Slow down, Jason. Sarah disappeared from the back seat. She was usually the brave one, but even she was clutching the door handle. I'm not really doing 20. Jason muted. His eyes glowed to the road. Then it happened. A sound like gunshot rang out under the car. Crack! The SUV pulled hard to the right. Jason fought the wheel. The metal rim grinding against the asphalt with a scratch that sounded like a dying animal. We skated to a halt. Silence! Rushed back in, heavier than before. We got out and the cold hit us instantly. It was not just chilly. It was a bone deep, unnatural for us. Our breath came out in thick plumes of white. The front passenger tire was shredded, not just flat, shredded, as if something with a giant serrated teeth had taken a bite out of it. There is no way we are fixing this here, Leo said, looking at the dark wall of trees. The jack is buried under all our gear, and I can't see a thing. We stood there for a minute, for kids in the middle of nowhere. No, Nowhere. No car passed, no owl haunted. It was the kind of silence that make your ears sing. That is when I saw it, just off the road, hidden behind a cluster of overgrown pines, was a narrow dirt path, and at the end of that path, maybe 50 yards away, was a faint orange glow. Look, I said, pointing. House or a cabin? I don't know, Mark, Sarah said, her voice trembling. Maybe we should just stay in the car until morning. And phrase Jason contorted, looking at the fog. It's getting thicker. It's we stay here. We might get hit by a logging truck if one overcomes by. Let's just see if they have a phone. We started walking. Every step felt like we were crossing a line we're not supposed to be crossing. The path felt soft, like walking on moss covered bones. As we got closer, the cabin came into view. It was old, really old. The wood was black with age and moisture, and the porch was sagging as if the earth was trying to swallow it. Hanging over the door was a sign. It was hand carved. The letter jagged and uneven. Hitchhiker Heaven. Strange name for a house in the woods. Leo disappeared. I knocked on the door. It did not just open. It swung back slowly, as if it had been waiting for us. There was no one in the main room. Just a kerosene lamp was burning on a heavy, scary wooden table in the center. The room was filled with books, not regular books. Thousands of journals, all different sizes, all leather bound, stacked from the floor to the ceiling. Hello? Is anyone home? I called out. Nothing, just the sound of the wind whistling through the crack in the logs. We walked inside, mostly because the warmth of the lamp was better than the freezing fog. The air inside tasted like dust and old wax. On the table right next to the lamp sat a single book. It was open. I walked over to it. I should have turned around and run back to the car, shredded tire and all, but I did not. I looked at the page. The book was titled The Wonders Look. The ink looked fresh, like it had just been written. I started reading the first entry I saw. It was a story about a man who got lost in 1965. He described the same road, the same fog, and the same flat tire. He wrote about how he felt something watching him from the trees. I turned the page. Another story. This one from 1988. A girl named Claire. She wrote about hiding voices in the walls of this very cabin. She wrote about how the door would not open when she tried to leave. Guys, look at this, I said, my heart starting to thud against my ribs. I turned several more pages, my eyes scanning the dates 1995, 2004, 2012. The story were all different, but they all ended the same way. The last sentence of every entry was, and then the master of the house asked for his fee. Mark, stop it. You are creeping me out, Jason said, but he was looking at the walls. The shadow in the room were moving. The kerosene lamp was not flickering, but the shadows were stretching, crawling up the walls like long, dark fingers. I turned one more page and my blood turned to ice. The date at the top of the page was today's date. The handwriting was messy. Here it read, for traveler arrived at midnight. One in a blue jacket, one in a red, one in a red. They think they are looking for a house. They don't know They are the new chapter. I was wearing a blue jacket. Sarah was wearing red. We are leaving now, I yelled, slamming the book shut. The sound of the book closing echoed like a thunderclap. Suddenly, the temperature in the room dropped so low I could see my own breath, and then we heard it thump, thump, thump. I think thump, thump. Something was walking on the porch outside, but it did not sound like boots. It sounded like something heavy and with striking the wood. The frost huddled together in the center of the room. The door, which had been wide open, began to crack shut, slow, deliberate. From behind the closed door, a voice drifted through the wood. It was thin, cold, and sounded like it was coming from a throat filled with dry leaves. Who is going to write the next story? The voice asked. A long then shadow began to blend under the door, spreading across the floor like split ink. It moved toward us, ignoring the light of the lamp. The window, Jason shouted, pointing the back of the cabin. But as we turned to run, I looked back at the table. The book I had just slammed shut. It was open again, and there was a new sentence appearing on the page, the ink bubbling up from the paper as if the book itself was bleeding. It said, Mark looked back, and that was his first mistake. A note from Mark, the story sender. Adil, when I tell you that, my heart stopped. I mean, it's literally felt like my chest went hollow. I knew right then that this was not just some crazy haunted house. This place, it was alive. It wanted us. I did not want our money or our car. It wanted our story. And the worst part, I could feel the pen in my pocket getting hot, like it was beginning me to start writing. You won't believe that what happened when we tried to break that window. Everything we thought we knew about reality just snapped. The moment that voice disappeared through the door, cabin stopped being a shelter and turned into a cage. We were four healthy college students, but in that moment, we felt like small, helpless insect catch in the spider's web. The window now, Jason screamed again. He did not wait. He grabbed a heavy wooden stool and hauled it with everything he had at the window. At the back of the room, we expected the sound of breaking glass. We expected a way out, but when the stool hit the pane, there was no shutter. Instead, there was a dull, wet thought. This tool did not break the glass. It stuck off it. We watched in horror as the glass began to tremble like the surface of a dark pond. The wooden stool was slowly began pulling into the window, melting into the frame as if the cabin was eating it. Within seconds, the stool was gone, and the glass went back to being smooth and dark. What kind of place is this? Leo gasped, backing away so fast he tripped over a stack of journals. The journals on the floor did not just fall, they started to evaporate. These thousands of books lining the walls began to chatter. Their pages flapping like wings of rabid birds. The sound was defining. Thousands of paper, then voice disappeared, different story, all at once. I was cooled. It took my legs first. The ink is inside me. Cover your eyes. EARS. I yelled, but I did not help. The voice was not coming from the room. They were coming from inside our heads. I looked back at the table. The vendor's log was still there, glowing under the kerosene lamp. The ink was now flowing off the page, dripping onto the floor like black blood. It crawled across the wood, moving with the purpose, heading straight for our feet. Don't let to touch you. Sarah screamed. She scrambled up onto the table pulling her legs in, but the heavy oak door, starting to crack open again. The shadow that had been bleeding under it rose up. It was not a man, it was a silhouette made of flickering static and old paper. It had no face, just a jagged tree where a mouth should be. I stepped into the room, and the kerosene lamp turned a deep, sickly purple. You have not finished the chapter, the entity rasped. Its voice sounded like two pieces of sandpaper rubbing together. The heaven requires a witness. We will be the ink. We will be the page. Liu, who was usually the loudest of us, was frozen. He was staring at the shelves. Mark looked at the name on the books. I looked it on the spines of the journal. The titles were changing. The last hike of Liu Wants. The silent scream of Sarah Myler. The broken bones of Jason Reed. Our name were already on the shelves. This place had been waiting for us long. Before we overtook that shortcut, I am not dying in this hall. Jason nodded. He grabbed a fire poker from the hearth and swung it at the paperman. The poker passing right through the entirely adjust, tearing a hole in the static. But instead of blood, a swarm of black moths flew out of the wound, filling the room. They were not insect. They were in tiny scrap of paper with wood writing on them. They landed on our skin, and everywhere they touched it, it felt like a cigarette burned out. We have to go through the doors. It's the only way. I grabbed Sarah and hands jumped out the table, ducking the puddle of living ink on the floor. We ran toward the door. The entity did not move to stop us. It just stood there, its judged mouth widening into a horrific grin. Run, little words, it hissed. The effort is just a bigger book. We burst out onto the porch and jumped into the fog. We did not head for the car. We couldn't see the road anymore. The fog was so thick, it felt like we were running through clouds. We just ran blindly into the trees, our lungs burning, our hearts ready to explode. We must have run for 20 minutes. We did not hear the entity behind us, but heard the strays. The branches were snapping and rearranging themselves. Every time I looked back, the path we had just taken was gone. The forest was rewriting itself behind us. Wait, stop! Liu panted, leaning against a large oak. I think we lost it. We can't stop. Sarah sobbed. Did you see its face? It did not have a face, Ma. Look, Jason said, his voice flat and dead. He was pointing ahead. Through the thinning fog, we saw light, a faint orange glow. We felt a surge of hope. Maybe it was a ranger station. Maybe a farmhouse. We ran toward it, pushing through the thorns. We broke through the clearing and stopped dead. There, sitting in the middle of the woods, was a small black wooden cabin. A crooked sign hung over the porch. Hitchhiker's heaven. We had run in straight lines for miles, but the forest had brought us right back to the front door and the roast part. The door was wide open, and the kerosene lamp was still burning on the table. But something was different. There was a fifth person sitting at the table now. It was a man in a yellow raincoat, his back turning to us. He was holding a pen, writing furiously in the journal. Hey, Jason yelled, his feeling turning into desperate anger. Who are you? What do you want? The man stopping right it. The entire fort went silent. Even the wind stopped. He slowly turning around. Under the yellow hood, he was no skin. There were no eyes. His entire head was made of tightly rolled parchment covered in teeny, cramped handwriting. He lifted a finger, a long yellow bone, and pointed at Liu. Your introduction was too long. The parchment man disappeared suddenly. Liu mouth snapped shut, not like closed, but like it was crazy. His lips smoothed over into solid skin, leaving nothing but a blank space. He tried to scream, but only a muffled hum came out of his nose. Then the ink on the ground near the pots rose up like a whip and wrapped around Liu's waist. Liu, we screamed, reaching for him, but before we could grab him, he was jerked backward into the cavern with impossible speed. The door slammed shut, and we heard the sound of a heavy bolt sliding into place from inside the cave. We heard the sound of a pen scratching on paper. Scratch, scratch, scratch. And then Leo's muffled scream turned into the sound of a page being torn out of a book. A note of Mark, the story center. I can't still heard that sound. The sound of Leo being unmade. It did not sound like a murder. It sounded like a mistake being rubbed but out by the eraser. We were standing outside the tower, hitting it with our bare fists until our knuckles were bloody. But it was like hitting a mountain, and then the window of the cabin started to glow with the bright, blinding light. I saw Liu's silhouette pressed against the glass. He was turning into paper. His fingers were thinking, out of turning white and flat. I am telling you, what coming next for even roast. I had to choose between shaming my friend and saving my soul, and I am not proud of what I did. The author of Agony. The sound of Liu being unmade is something that will play in my head until the day I die. It was not had the sound of bones snapping over blood spilling. It was the dry, rhythmic sound of a heavy industrial paper shredder. Crunch, grip, silence. I then absolutely silence. Liu. Jason was hysterical. He threw his entire body weight against the oak door, but it was like hitting a wall of solid iron. Sarah was on her knees of the porch, sobbing, her hands over her cart. I stood there, paralyzed, watching the window. The light inside the cabin shifting from that sickly purple of a deep, throbbing crimson through the glass. I saw shadow dancing. Not a human shadow, but then jagged shape, the looked air like alphabet letter comes to life, crawling over the walls. Suddenly, the scratching sound of the pen stopped. The door did not crack this time. I exploded outward, the wood disintegrating into a cloud of confetti. But the confetti did not fall to the ground. It was hung in the air, swirling around us like a blizzard of teeny, sharp razor blades. The man in the yellow raincoat, the parchment man, walked out onto the porch. Up close, he saw even more horrific. You could see the words moving under the transparent skin of his face. Paragraph shifting, sentence rear-ringing themselves. He was a living book of every soul that had ever died in this world. Liu once has been edited. The creature rasped. Its mouth did not move. The word just appeared as black stains on its parchment throat. He was weak character. Too much fear, not enough substance. But you three, you have potential. Give him my back. Jason screamed, longing at the creature with the shard of the broken doors. The parchment man did not even flinch. He simply raised his hand, and Jason froze in mid-air. It was not magic. It was like the world had been paused. Jason stayed suspended, his face twisted in a mask of rage. His feet inches off the porch. Jason read. The creature whispered, titling its head, The Brave Protector. A classic trope. Every horror story needs a one. You died in chapter 5, Jason, saving the girl. It's a bit glitch, don't you think? With a flick of its wrist, the creature sent Jason flying backward. He did not hit a tree. He hit the air and shattered, but he did not break into pieces of flesh. He broke into thousands of black ink droplets. The droplets hung the fog for a second before they were soaked back into the cabin, staining the wooden floorboards a permanent oily black. It was just me and Sarah now. Mark, please, Sarah whispered, clutching my blue jacket. Make it stop, please make it slow. Stop. The parchment man turned his eyes less, gazed toward us. He held out the journal. The Wanderer's Log. The story is telling I need climax. I need a sacrifice that truly hurts. He pointed his skeletal finger at me. You, Mark Thompson, you are not a protagonist. You are the one who tells the tale, but every great narrator needed to lose something. Give me the girl, and you may walk out of these woods. You will live to be old. You will have a family, but you will carry the ink of her scream in your heart forever. My heart felt like it was being squeezed by a cold hand. I looked at Sarah. She was looking at me with wide, terrified eyes. She trusted me. She had known me since we were 10 years old. No. I whispered, though my voice was barely audible. Take me, let her go. The creature let out a dry, rattling lug character groan. How noble, but that's not how this story ends. Look at your hand, Mark. I looked down. My skin was turning white, not pale, but the flat, made white of high quality paper. My veins were turning into blue and red lines, like the margins of a notebook. The tips of my fingers were sharpening into the points, like the nails of a fountain pen. I was becoming the instrument. If you don't choose, the parchment man said, his voice growing louder. The forest will climb both of you, and the forest is much slower rider than I am. Suddenly, the trees around the clearing began to move. They were not trees anymore. They were giant vertical scroll of bark unfurling. They revealed thousands of names writing in blood. The ground beneath us began to soften, turning into a thick black smoke that smelled of chemical and holding. Sarah started to sing. Mark, help me. It's pulling me down. She was waist deep in the ink within seconds. I reached for her, but my hands, my paper hands, they tore when I grabbed her. I could not hold her. The more I pulled, the more I felt my own substance being sucked away. Choose, Mark. The creature bellowed. The story must have an ending. In the moment of pure blinding terror, I saw a way out. It was a gamble, a desperate, insane thought. I looked at the parchment man, and then I looked at the burning kerosene lamp that had somehow survived the door explosion. I am the narrator, right? I screamed at the creature. Yes, it hissed. Then I'm changing the script. I don't grab Sarah. Instead, I throw myself at the table. My paper then body felt alive, almost like I was floating. I grabbed the kerosene lamp with my ink-stained fingers and smashed it directly out onto the parchment man's chest. For a second, there was total silence. Then the creature erupted. Because he was made of old, dry paper, he went up like cutouts. The flames were not orange; they were a brilliant, blinding blue. He did not scream like a man. He sounded like a laboratory burning down. The roar of the 1,000-story turning to ash. The end. I yelled, grabbing Sarah's hand as the ink smoke began to be oil. The cabin started to collapse, not inward, but to upward. The logs turning into smoke and flying away into the dark. The parchment man reached out for me, his flaming hand inches from my face, his skin peeling away to reveal nothing but a void of darkness underneath. The story never ends. His grounded, his voice fading into the wind. The explosion of light was so bright I had to close my eyes. I felt the sensation of falling through 1,000 pages, through 1,000 lives, through 1,000 lives. Then I opened my eyes. I was lying on the cold gravel of the road. The sun was just beginning to peek over the mountain. The fog was gone. The forest looked normal, just trees and rocks. Sarah, I croaked. She was laying a few feet away, her red jacket done and covered in dirt. She was breathing, she was alive. But when she opened her eyes and looked at me, she did not say my name. She did not cry. She just stared at me with a hollow, empty expression. I looked over SUV. The tire was not shredded anymore. It was perfectly fine. No flat, no damage. We got in the car. We did not talk. We drove straight out of those mountains and never looked back. But here the things did. When we got home, I went to check on Leo and Jason. I went to their houses. I called their parents. Their parents looked at me like I was a stranger. Who are Leo and Jason? They asked. I checked my phone, my photo and group chat. They were gone. I was not just that, they were dead. It was like they had never existed. Every memory of them, every record of their life had been erased from the world, except from one thing. Except from one thing. I reached into my pocket and found a small leather-bound book. My name was on the cover. I opened into the last page. It was a description for me, sitting in my room, writing this letter to you. And the last sentence was writing in fresh, wet ink. He thinks the fire ended it, but the fire only provided the light of start a new chapter. A note for Mark, the final message. Adele, I told you I am fine now and physically. I am, but every night when I close my eyes, I hear the sound of a pen. I'm writing to you because I think the only way to stay out of the book is to keep the story moving. I share it with you, and you share it with your viewers. The story is active. It's not finished. As long as people are reading this, I'm still the narrator. But the moment people stop listening, I think the parchment man will come back. They finish my chapter. Please don't let the story die. So there you have it. That was Mark's story. The story of a man who was almost erased from existence. Mark claimed he fixed his claim. He bleached the pages and freed his friend. But you have the wonder. It is alike head kitchen and heaven. Even truly gone. or is just waiting for a new narrator to pick up the pen. The mountains are still there, the fog still rolls in every October, and that road, it's still out there, hiding a plain sight. Mark and friends come back, yes, but are they really the same people? Or are they just shadow of a story that's still being written while we sleep? Now, I want to hear from you because honestly, Mark's story has me looking over my shoulder every 5 minutes. Do you think Mark actually won? Or did he just start a new, more dangerous chapter by trying to change the script? What would you do? What would you do if your car broke down on a Mark Mountain road and you saw a light in the woods? Would you walk toward it, or would you take your chance in the cold? Have you ever felt it? That feeling when you are alone in a room, but you feel like someone is standing right behind you, just out of sight. Drop your thought in the comments below. Drop your thought in the comments below. I read every single one of them. And if you have got a real story of your own, something that keeps you up at night, send it to me. Don't forget to subscribe. And hit the notification bell. You don't want to miss the next story, because next time this story may be about you. Stay safe out there. The night is longer. Thank you.